What's up guys, welcome to another tutorial. Today's episode I'm going to show you how to make a ghost image in Photoshop.
I'm going to use the drift method. Freaking incredible. Round F16 for that to get that sunburst.
So I kind of wanted to keep with the theme for October since it's kind of the end of October and we're all stoked about Halloween and everything. Well, at least I am, and I know Tristan is. So the video on Tuesday I showed you how to make a ghost image in camera and just by using a long exposure. So if you want to know how to do that and you haven't seen that one, you can go check that out here. But like I said in that video, there's a ton of different ways to do this, especially in Photoshop. There's millions of ways to do this in Photoshop. So I just kind of came up with an idea in my head and I haven't really played with it yet, but I'm just gonna go ahead and jump into Photoshop and show you guys my thought process for making a ghost-like image. So let's get into it.
Alright, so let's see if I can't make a ghost out of this. This is just an image that I've already done that was from a day to night shoot, so it's already got a decent start. But I think I'm gonna just completely redo this in some sort of ghosty way. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm gonna do is white out her eyes here. Just a little bit. Go for that creepy effect. I'm just going to use a brush tool with some white. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is a stamp visible layer, Control Shift Alt E, and then I'm just going to probably make this a smart object. Now I'm going to come up here to Filter and Blur Gallery. Actually, I'm going to go to Motion Blur. I'm going to bring it up pretty high. Now I'm going to come down here and click on the layer, and I'm just going to paint out some of that. I should probably do it higher than 2% opacity, otherwise it's going to take a while. I think the next thing I want to do to this is to make it a black and white. So I'm just going to come up here to Adjustments and add my black and white, and then I'll probably start bring up those yellows in her skin tones a little bit. Now let's see if we can just start messing with it a little bit more, see what happens. I'm going to come over here to, actually, I'm going to do another stamp visible layer. I'm going to come over here to channels. So I'm just going to double click on this. And I'm going to uncheck the red channel. Maybe I'm going to experiment with the layers a little bit and then just kind of drop that saturation. So I picked exclusion. So now that we can see our live previews, it makes it a lot easier. So I'll just mess with that a little bit. Drop the opacity some. I don't want it all the way up there at 100 because it looks like crap. Subtle amount is looking pretty decent. Gives it a little extra pop and a slight color tinge. So now if I want to mess with the colors a little bit more and add a more of a kind of a horror creepy color feel to it, I'm going to come up here to the color balance. And generally horror movies and stuff that incites that kind of horror type feeling are more greenish and bluish, so I'm going to start working with that, and I'm going to start with the shadows. So I'm going to bring those to a bit bluer. And then I'm going to go straight to the highlights. And I'm going to do kind of the opposite effect. So I'm going to go more of a yellow and a little bit more of a red to balance that out. That's going to create a little more colorful contrast. So I've talked about that before, using color to make contrast, and this is a completely different example than what I did in the other video you can check out, but this works really well. This is very popular in movie grading and stuff, kind of whatever you do to the shadows, you do the opposite to the highlights or vice versa. And then the midtones, you could lean either way. Depending on what the midtones are looking like in the image, you could lean and do them more like you did the highlights or more like you did the shadows and see what happens. So in this case, I think I am going to lean a little more towards the red and yellows for the midtones. So that's our color balance, and that gives it a definite different feel. So another thing about this image is it's looking a little bit too smooth because I shot this with more of a traditional portrait style in mind, and I did the original photoshopping and all that with that in mind. So now what I'm going to do is roughen it up a little bit and give it some noise. So I'm just going to do Control Shift N for a new layer, call it noise, and I'm going to fill it with black, and then I'm going to come up here to filter and do add noise, whatever amount you want really. Probably not going to go too heavy on it, and then change it to soft light. So now it's looking a bit dark, so let's clean that up a little bit. If we just do Control L, then we can start changing that a little bit and bringing some of that back. So maybe now we can try something else and do maybe a little phase shift looking thing. Might add a little layer of extra motion and creepiness to it, so I'm just gonna copy that. That's not what I want. Bring it to the top here and drop the opacity like way down. And then if we double click on it and take out one of the channels, see, now we've got that shift to it. Now her eyes look a little creepy though, not the creepy that I want intended, I guess. So I'm just gonna make a mask on there and paint that out. So I think that looks all right. There is, of course, a lot more that you can do to this, and you guys know, if you've seen my channel or seen my other Photoshop stuff, that you can definitely get sucked into editing too much, and there's a good possibility I could have already done that, but this is kind of the basic thing that I was going for and wanted to show in terms of a ghost-like effect. So you could take her out and put her into a new background, or put her into this background again, but make it the background not so blurred. And you could add some mist or some creepy lights, or I mean, there's just tons of stuff you can do with this. But I think that's kind of all I wanted to show.
Alright, so there it is. That's kind of what I came up with in my head, and like I said in the video, there's a lot of different ways you could do any kind of effects like this, but that's just kind of how my thought process went based on, you know, what I'm used to doing in Photoshop. So hopefully that'll kind of help you with your creativity and really to see what kind of stuff you can get away with. And like I said, this was just an image that I already had. I didn't even have to go out and reshoot it, but if I were to go out and reshoot something and actually plan for it, I could probably even make something a lot cooler. But definitely just go through your old stuff and see what kind of things you have, and then use these kind of use the things as I did in this video as kind of a guideline to help you figure out how else you can push an image or change an image to get a different look out of it. So if you have any questions about anything that I did in the video that you want to know more about, or that I didn't cover enough, leave those in the comments below and I'll definitely answer them. If you like this stuff and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I've got new videos every Tuesday and Friday. Hit that like button if this video helped you out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.